I wasn't born in Wales, but somehow it feels so familiar, especially knowing that nature is so close and around me on call whenever I need it. Even the wildlife reminds me of home. Hi, I'm Justine, the nerdy half of the Breakaway Bravehearts, and I'm a Kiwi who's ended up in Wales. So today I'm taking you on a journey through both countries and sharing everything I've learned while filming my travels. I'm going to be trying out some words in both Māori and Welsh, so wish me luck. And if you've got any tips, thoughts or experiences, please share them with me in the comments. People always talk about Wales and New Zealand as two big rugby nations. And sure, that's the obvious link. The rugby field is one place where both our not so big countries punch well above their weight. But full disclosure, I'm not actually a big rugby fan, so I was a little bit surprised to feel straight away such a close connection. You can feel it in the energy of the land. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, the land isn't quiet. It speaks through volcanoes, and it tells us stories of creation. One of my favourites is that of Tongariro and Taranaki. They both fell in love with the same mountain, Pihanga. In Wales, the mountains are giants, not just tall, but alive with stories. In Snowdonia, the peaks are tied to a giant who wore a cloak made of the beards of the kings he'd defeated, right up until King Arthur killed him, on top of the mountain we now call Snowdon. According to legend, Rita Gawa's body still lies beneath the summit. Further south, Kadir Idris, or the Chair of Idris, is named after another giant, or a warrior poet, depending on your version. They say if you fall asleep on its slopes, you wake up either a poet or mad. These aren't just stories, they're a way of seeing the land as something that tests you or transforms you. Even the trees have tales to tell in both of our countries. This is Tane Mahuta, who in Māori mythology is the god of forests and birds, and a central figure in the creation of the world. Tane and his siblings were trapped in darkness between their parents, Ranginui and Papatuanuku. Seeking light and space, Tane pushed his parents apart, bringing light into the world and allowing life to flourish. The Welsh myth of Cad Gothi tells of a magical battle where trees are transformed into warriors to fight against the forces of the other world. Each tree species is given a distinct character and role in battle, and the forest itself becomes an active participant in this mythical struggle. While Tane Mahuta embodies the spirit and stewardship of the forest, Cad Gothi reveals the forest's hidden power and the deep-rooted connection between humanity, magic, and the natural world. So in both our countries, land isn't just scenery, it's story, alive with memory and meaning. And in both our countries, the earth is never far from its counterpart, water. Here in North Wales, the Irish Sea stretches out to the horizon. Wales is famous for having loads of waterfalls, which isn't surprising given its mountains and rainy weather. The exact number depends on what you count as a waterfall, but there are at least 253 named ones across the country, and that's not even including the smaller unnamed or unofficial falls you find tucked away in different corners of Wales. Swallow Falls is one of the most photographed areas in Snowdonia, and you can see why. It's absolutely stunning. The waterfall just cascades down. This is the Dizith waterfall. Waterfalls were sometimes seen as portals to the other world, thin places where the boundary between our world and the spiritual one could be crossed. Welsh folklore speaks of water spirits or fairies, Tolwyth Teg, who guard hidden treasures beneath the water and sometimes enchant travellers. And then there's the Avanc, a water monster who lives in deep pools and rivers. He is said to drag people to their death by drowning or floods the nearby villages. He's kind of a cross between a crocodile and a beaver, sort of a demon platypus. These stories are another reminder of home, where water is also sacred and alive with the spirit of the Aotearoa. In Aotearoa, taniwha are the powerful water guardians, both respected and feared. Some are kaitiaki, protectors of people and land, but others are dangerous and appear when the waters are mistreated. Like the avank, taniwha remind people that water is more than a resource. It's a presence with spirit and will. For me, as a traveller who straddles both these worlds, it's in these stories that I feel most connected, across cultures, across oceans. Wales is a country built on stories. One of its most enduring is the tale of the Red Dragon. You see, Merlin of King Arthur fame had a dream. He dreamt there were two dragons fighting, one red, representing the Welsh, and one white, the Saxons. As they fought, the red took power and the white ran away. The story is a vision of hope and return of control of their land. It reflects a deeper tension, the dual identity of being proudly Welsh, yet still under the shadow of Britain. Because Wales isn't even represented on the Union Jack. The Union flag combines the crosses of England, St. George, Scotland, St. Andrew, and Ireland, St. Patrick. But Wales, which had already been annexed by England long before the Union was formed, was simply folded into England's identity. So perhaps that's why in 1959 Wales formally adopted the Red Dragon, fierce and defiant, creating a draig goch as the symbol of the strength of the Welsh spirit. And yet internationally, it's the Union Jack that most often flies for Wales, a flag some have called the butcher's apron. Meaning your flag is stained in blood. That's the cost of colonisation. Welsh poet Owen Shear's work, Flag, explores what it means to be Welsh in the modern world, using the image of the Welsh flag burning the skin as it tries to cover bloody wounds. For Shear's, identity isn't simple. He was actually born in Fiji, but he grew up in Aberganefi in southeast Wales, which is right on the border, the bilingual border between England and Wales. So you can understand why identity is so important to him. He explores what it's like to live with inherited stories, living in the shadow of history, a past that is not as real to you as it is to those around you. I kind of get what he means. It's really hard to identify as Pākehā when you're not entirely sure where your history begins and ends. Is my history English? It is, and yet it feels foreign. Is my history Māori? No, and yet that is home. So who am I? It's a really interesting debate for me because recently actually we did have a referendum in New Zealand to see if we wanted to change the flag, and it was very, very close, and we kept it. Personally, I wouldn't have minded a change. I don't mind my flag. When I see it, I know it's my country, but it doesn't speak to me. There's nothing in there that says, that's you at your heart. The Southern Cross? Sure, but there's definitely something missing. You see, my flag also carries that colonial badge, that symbol of colonisation. Just as Shears used the flag to struggle with ideas of identity, New Zealand poets and artists use our national symbols to grapple with that idea of belonging. One stark example is Ralph Hotere's Black Union Jack from the late 1970s and early 1980s, a period marked by intense debate over New Zealand's national identity and its ties to Britain. Hotere's flag is a deliberate act of protest. In some versions, he's written the words, "Greetings from the land of the wrong white crowd," a humorous and sharp twist on the English translation of Aotearoa, meaning the land of the long white cloud. In case you haven't guessed it yet, Aotearoa is our original name, just like Wales is really Cymru. So for the average person, that means the things they're proud of at home don't always get the recognition they deserve internationally. It's a bit like being a vital part of the team, but not getting your own jersey. But there is definitely a connection here between Wales and New Zealand in terms of not just the nature that surrounds us, but the history that we have lived through. Of course, there are some major differences. Welsh human history goes back millennia to at least 4000 BC, when Stone Age people roamed the hills, and it's still dotted with its medieval past. There's no denying Wales is beautiful, and with the lush green and the sheep in the background, it kind of reminds me of home, except for the castle ruins. In fact, it's often referred to as the land of castles, with more than 600 castles, over 100 still standing, making it the country with the highest density of castles per square mile in the world. If you're interested in learning more about Welsh history, I've linked the video above, which you might be interested in. And if you'd like to learn more about the history of Aotearoa, New Zealand, check out my interview with Waitangi historian Cece. She weaves fascinating stories, and I learnt so much from her. I just loved my time with her. So I've put that link in the description below. You'll also find down there a link to join if you're interested in joining the Breakaway Bravehearts. You'll get access to all of our self-guided tours, plus updates, newsletters, and all the bits and pieces that go with the perks of being a Breakaway Braveheart member. So that's join button below, or if you just want to subscribe, we'd love to have you along. I read all the comments and I absolutely love hearing from our subscribers. Hit subscribe and the notifications bell. You see, Aotearoa, New Zealand has only been inhabited for well under 1,000 years, with Māori settlement beginning in the mid-13th century, making it one of the youngest countries on the planet and completely castle-free. There's not many places in New Zealand you'd find Roman ruins, but the Welsh seem to stumble across them in their backyards. But then our countries have shared experiences of the globe's more recent history. Wales and New Zealand both played important roles in World War I and II as parts of the British Empire. For New Zealand, the wars were a defining moment, with large proportions of our population serving overseas, and Māori involvement marked a great step towards integration, even if full equality was still a long way off. Wales faced bombing raids at home and contributed heavily through its regiments, especially from industrial communities. But its efforts were seen as part of the British war effort, and distinct Welsh identity was overshadowed. So both countries had that challenge of balancing tradition and progress as individual rights started to move forward and people wanted to reclaim and hang on to the cultural values that were so important to them. But how we adjusted to those experiences has seen us take some different pathways. New Zealand's immigration policy and changing attitudes towards diversity has seen our population reshaped, especially from the 1970s onwards. Wales, however, remains somewhat more insulated from global migration. So our modern populations reflect very different journeys in terms of diversity and multiculturalism. So while Wales has seen growing diversity recently, especially in cities like Cardiff, its population is much more homogenous than Aotearoa, New Zealand's. But even with these differences in diversity, there's still something stronger and deeper that connects these places, and that's the commitment to keeping our Indigenous languages alive. For a long time, English was the dominant language in both Wales and Aotearoa, not just through use, but by design. Indigenous languages were pushed to the margins. Today, both countries are making a serious effort to bring them back to daily life. You don't need to speak either language to travel in the countries, and that's something I notice people use as an excuse. You don't need it. Yeah, but they're both beautiful language, and it's very respectful to at least give it a try. And everybody here in Wales and back home in New Zealand are so supportive. They'll respond with genuine warmth and encouragement at any attempt. Give it a go. So while Wales wasn't where I was born,
walking through it does feel familiar.
I think it's because both here and back home in Aotearoa, New Zealand, people are trying to hold on to who they are while still figuring out what comes next. In both countries, our stories are still being written, and that's really hopeful. Meanwhile, my story is taking a bit of a detour. I'm heading off to Germany tomorrow. I've got 3 weeks in Eastern Germany, around the area of Dresden. I'm going to be seeking out some hidden gems and looking out to learn from the history and the culture. I hope you will come with me. Until then, happy travels everyone.